Hi there, I'm Pastor and author Robert B. Scott of freedomchurchofgod.com. The question sometimes comes up about the law and grace. Some people juxtapose law and grace. They say law is against grace, grace is against law. Well, grace is not against law. Now, the reason they say this is because John 1, verse 17 here says, "For the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth were realized through Jesus Christ." So they say, okay, see, this is the law of Moses there, now this is grace in Jesus. So they think they're two different things. But remember now, the whole verse 1 to 18 of John 1 is telling us who Jesus is. That He was the Word. He was the one who spoke the Ten Commandments. He was the one that gave the law to Moses. So Jesus is not against law. He just says that grace came through Him. What is grace? Grace is the ability that we have because of Jesus in us to keep the law of God. So we can be happy, peaceful, joyful, and all the rest. And then we see in Romans 6:14 that contradicts this teaching of law versus grace. This is Paul, who's supposed to be the champion of law against grace. He says, "For sin shall not be master over you, for you are not under law but under grace." Okay, now what is sin? Sin is 1 John 3:4, the breaking of the law. So he says, we're not going to break the law because now we have grace. That's what he's saying. Sin shall not dominate you because you can keep the law of God because of the grace of Jesus. You're not under law. You're not under the penalty of law because you're not sinning. You have the grace to keep it. That's as simple as you can get. And Paul is the one who said it. And what did Paul say in Titus chapter 2? Titus 2 says, "For the grace of God," verse 11, "has appeared, bringing salvation to all men, instructing us to say no to ungodliness." What is ungodliness? Ungodliness is breaking the law of God. And then he says, verse 14, "Who gave Himself for us to do what? To redeem us from every lawless deed." Did you hear that? Lawless deed. Now, if Jesus is going to redeem us from every lawless deed, that means He's going to redeem us from breaking the law. Not only does He pay for our sins, but He says, now that I'm resurrected and I'm living in you, I've given you the grace that you can keep the law, not by your strength, but by my strength, my glory, my power in you. That is grace. And that is a very simple explanation that you probably will not hear. Because Ephesians 2 says that God, it says, "By grace you're saved through faith, not of yourselves." It's a gift of God. And then it says, "But then you have the works that God puts in you, that He prepares beforehand, that you walk in them." We're to have good deeds. We're to walk. It says in verse 14, "Zealous for good deeds," Titus 2, verse 14. We're to be zealous for good deeds. We're to be zealous for obeying the law of God. David loved the law of God. Psalm 119, he says, "Oh, how love I your law." He said, "I lift up my hands to your law." Your law is wonderful. Why would you be against a law that gives you blessings, that keeps you from the problems? So we hope that you can assimilate this, because it is something that is not taught in the world's religions and in Christianity today. That is the simple truth about law and grace. Law does not go against grace. Grace enables you to keep the law, and that is the truth.